we're going to get this panel started. So just a little bit backdrop, as we just mentioned, advocate and tech writer is joining together to elicit this conversation across industry. So if you don't know what Innovation Pavilion does, we're from Innovation Pavilion, look around you. This is a cross-industry open innovation dialogue between corporate leadership and entrepreneurial ecosystem. And obviously, we all like to drink a lot. So, okay, anyway. So we have awesome content today. So we have the Trade Desk and also the SpotX representative here to kind of give us a perspective from AdTech. And Brian from Epiphany AI will act as a moderator, and also he's a genius across 2 platforms already, so he'll fill us in with some IoT perspective on that one. So usually this trick will work. So how many of you are representing AdTech? Shout doesn't work. Raise your hands. How many of you represent AdTech? Okay. Give me a little support. Step a few steps forward, please. Come on. Give me a little love. Come on. Come here, come here, come here. Move forward, move forward. Do you want me to do a shout out for you, or?
I'll do it, Philip. Hey, tech writers, are you here? Show me that you're here. Come on up.
Tech writers, move forward, please.
Come on, writers, let's go.
All right, a couple of acknowledgments. So definitely you've seen Tom, Kyle, and Michael from My High House. We would like to acknowledge and appreciate the sponsorship for this awesome space, rooftop, not too hot. Awesome space for them, so we really appreciate that. And I just want to acknowledge our advocate board member, the Trade Desk, and Epiphany AI, and hopefully we have Arrow someday. So anyway, so let's get started. So I would like to introduce. Do you have anything to say, Susie?
Nope. I just want to say I'm super excited to be collaborating with you, Philip. I believe that the intersection of IoT and AdTech is going to explode in Colorado, so this is the start of that.
So just to add to that, the reason why we think AdTech and IoT is a good idea is because IoT people generate data, AdTech people try to monetize data. So we think this is something that totally makes sense, and it's up for you guys to find out. We hope you find good conversation, learn a lot today from our panelists, and hopefully start some cross-industry collaboration with the people you meet today. All right, so I'll introduce our moderator, Brian, the CSO from Epiphany AI. Woo! That's our advocate community. All right, thank you, Philip. So we've got a couple of panelists up here. We were hoping to have Arrow up here. I'm not sure if they're going to show up or not, but we're going to cruise on like they were. Alan from SpotX, come on up, bud. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because you'll do it much better.
All right. Appreciate it.
I'm pretty sure this one works.
Hello. Nope. You got it.
You want to grab a seat just right beside? This one works.
Hello? No, you got it. Hello? Can you hear me? All right, cool. Thanks.
So, Alan, just give us a brief introduction of who you are, what you do at SpotX, and then I'm going to bring Mike up on the stage and let him do the same thing, and we'll dive into this.
Yeah, fantastic. So I work with SpotX. I work on the side where we are connecting things like connected televisions, set-top boxes, and the data around those, including mobile devices, cross-device graphs, and really kind of looking at the data sets and how advertisers can use that to look at individuals and people and groups to spend their advertising budget much more wisely. We work primarily with publishers that create this type of inventory, so major broadcasters, large news organizations, gaming developers, etc.
All right, cool. Mike Davis. I want to introduce Mike from the Trade Desk as well. Mike is the VP of Innovation.
Hello.
Mike, will you do us the same favor and kind of give us an idea of who you guys are and what you're doing?
Yeah, hey, I'm Mike Davis, VP of Innovation at the Trade Desk, like you said. Yeah, so the Trade Desk is an advertising platform that represents the buy side. So we represent advertisers and agencies in how they actually can buy media through companies like SpotX, on exchanges or through direct buys, any way that that's needed. So we're about kind of the technology layer in how those agencies can go out and find users among the currently 4 to 5 million transactions a second that we're looking at across the world, across all different channels of advertising, whether that's video or display or audio or anything like that. I don't know if that's
Awesome,
enough.
guys. So I want to just kind of dive into this. You guys deal with data consistently. We had some prep conversations and talked about advertising and IoT and kind of where the intersection lies. There's lots of cool things out there. There's liquor bottles that are connected. There's applications for makeup that allow you to participate, contribute information, and then get information back from brands. Mike, let's start with you. Can you tell me a little bit about your perspective from the data collection side of the market? You guys dove in with some beacon technology and did some testing there. I think that's as close as I can find as a real advertising tech company diving into the IoT side of it, specifically looking at data right now. I know there's a couple of aggregators, but nobody really like what you guys are doing the innovation research and trying to figure out whether this works or not for not just the advertising side, but the technology and the IoT side. Can you dive into that for us a little?
Yeah, for sure. So, for us, I guess the cross between ad tech and IoT is a really interesting space, especially like Brian mentioned, from the data side of things. We see a lot of capabilities for data coming in from different IoT devices that could be used for advertising, targeting, and potentially the other way around, where we could be showing advertisements on some type of IoT device. And we've had a few conversations around that. I guess the particular case Brian's been talking about, we've done a prototype around beacon technology, kind of out of one of our research groups at the Trade Desk, where we really took the idea of, hey, can we use a beacon to actually do attribution for ads? So can we show someone an ad on a video ad on a television, and then maybe another ad on their mobile device, and then can we use a beacon to actually say that that same user who we showed an ad to actually walked into a store or walked into some location that we were advertising for. And so part of the, I don't know how far you want me to go into that story.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, so we actually went and built a sample app that actually did all this. So we were able to serve ads to ourselves and then attribute that same ad back to the same user from when they actually walked in and came in contact with a particular IoT or a particular beacon that we were looking at. So the story actually works, right? So this use case that we wanted to prove out is definitely possible. What we really learned in the process of that, and really the reason we're doing this research is to learn if this is a viable solution that we could roll out to some of our clients. And the big thing that we found that there's definitely there's definitely possibilities there, but there's a number of things that are, I'm laughing at my picture getting taken. There's a number of things that are actually hindering us from being able to have this done at scale.
So let's stop right there and let's let Alan chime in. You guys deal with data as well. So you guys deal with data from, well, let's just say connected TVs. That's an IoT device, right? I'm gonna label it as an IoT device. It's connected to the internet. It delivers data back and forth. It's an IoT device. So how do you guys specifically look at connected TVs, addressable TVs, IoT from that perspective, and then the data that comes off of it, the true data, and then the data exhaust?
Yeah, it's interesting. Thanks. Okay, we're gonna do it this way. So it's interesting because when you actually think about how when you set up your TV now, it asks you to connect to the internet. Now, most people aren't using the smart apps on their TV to watch content, but their TV is connected to the internet. Now, why is their TV asking them to connect to the internet? Is it because it needs the most current time? It's not. What's happening is on many of the TV sets that are sold today, they're doing what they call audio content recognition. They're actually, and Samsung has just recently gotten in trouble for this, as has Vizio, where the television set itself is listening to whatever you play through the television. It doesn't matter whether it's a DVD player, your tuner, or your Xbox or PlayStation console, it can recognize what you are watching. It takes that data. It's basically like Shazam for anything and everything you're watching, including the ads. Takes that data, turns it into anonymized data that then gets sent out to advertisers, and then they can profile you on it. That advertisers in the Super Bowl 10 years from now don't want to show you guys standing around the water cooler talking about what the coolest ad was. They want to talk about what the coolest ad that you saw. And the Volkswagen ad that you see may be very different than the Volkswagen ad that somebody else sees in real time. So they're taking all this data, and it doesn't matter whether it's your smart refrigerator or your television. And in the case of Samsung, they actually had to issue a release that said, don't have any sensitive conversations around the television in your living room.
Stop.
Now, what
Stop.
the hell
Wait,
does that
wait.
mean?
What? That's what I'm going to say. What does that mean? So you're telling me that IoT technology is invading privacy, and you don't even have to be connected to the network. It's not about my phone. It's not about my Fitbit. It's not about my cool new Under Armour shirt that's connected. It's about I'm just in the environment.
That's right. So if you look at things like everything from your television, which is listening to you. Anybody here have an Alexa? Somebody's got an Alexa. Your Alexa is listening to you all the time. It knows what you're playing on the radio station. It knows what's on your television. Now, are they doing anything with that data? Probably not right now, but the desire to use that data is overwhelming. So I think it opens up some new questions and challenges for us as a society when we have everything from our toothbrush to our undershirt to our television to our toaster and our refrigerator connected and sending out a data stream. What does that mean? How do we use it? How do we use it responsibly? And what are the good and bad uses for it?
I love the fact that you got to responsibility. And I think that there's three legs in this, right? Like there's the advertising and marketing industry and the technology behind it. There's the data that really represents the user, right? And that's the most protected piece of the system. And then you've got the complete mechanism that uses that to align for whatever we're trying to deliver. And that's where IoT devices come in, I think, is they're the data input, right? Like everything has data exhaust at this point, like you're saying, and it's just being ambient in the environment, and it produces data. So that gets me back to another point is the user, and I stopped you a second ago, Mike, at the user and the problems that we're having with pushing this IoT product out for beacons and making that a viable product on the user's interface, right? So you guys experienced some problems on that side. You want to dive into some of the focus from the user side that you guys saw?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's like I was saying, there's definitely some viable options there, but from a scale perspective, like I guess that's more from our perspective. Scale isn't quite there yet, and it'd be hard to scale something out. But from a user perspective, one of the big things that we found was when we turn on listening for beacons within our app, the amount of battery that was sucked up from that was actually pretty significant, right? And so it really limited our ability to be able to go out and make a deal with some specific app provider who has a relatively ubiquitous app. Think someone like Yelp or someone that has an app that a lot of people have on their phones today. If we were to go out to them and say, hey, we'd like to get this code on here so we can listen to beacons, we can work out some sort of deal where you get some money. But if that takes up 15% of your battery or 20% of the battery, like nobody's going to use Yelp anymore, and it's going to be a bad thing for Yelp. So it really limited our ability to actually be able to roll this out. Is kind of one of the big things from a user perspective, I think.
Cool. That's talking about power management. I think data is another perspective that we have to talk about when we talk about users. Transmission of data, data collected from a device and transmitted through the network. Data pushed at my device or collected from my device. As you know, a telephone's an IoT device. Your watch is an IoT device. You pay the bill on that. I pay the bill on it. From an advertising perspective, I'm looking at like I just want to put an ad on you. I want to buy the data. But from a user perspective, we've got to address that as well. And I think there's some lean protocols really looking at data and looking at how data is transmitted back and forth and what we're doing as far as creatives. Do you guys want to kind of dive into that a little bit as well?
There's a couple things. One, if you look at the economics of the Internet of Things, if I'm going to sell you a $5, $10, a Raspberry Pi-like device that's going to connect into your network, how many of those can I sell before, as a manufacturer, I kind of run out of out of manufacturing room. I've sold enough. I've done enough. How many refrigerators do I sell as Samsung or these other people that? So what these manufacturers are going to do, small and large, is they're going to look for secondary revenue sources, which means the easiest and most obvious secondary revenue source is to take the data exhaust, to take the data stream that's developed by these devices, and to sell that data out in some, preferably anonymized fashion, but in something that says, okay, well, you've got a smart refrigerator there at Home Depot right now. You can press a button to see what's inside your refrigerator on a flat screen in front of you. Like, not open the door, I'm going to press a button to see inside. But that's connected to the internet, which means that they can also do things like image recognition on what's inside your fridge to understand what brands that you actually have stocked in your fridge. So there's a lot of valuable data around that, and all of these companies are going to be looking for recurring revenue streams because they have to. The idea that a security protocol or a device that's rolled out today needs to be maintained for years and years. The security protocols behind them, they're going to have exploits in terms of people being able to get in your network. Wemo just had one of these things on their switches where people could take your Wemo light switch and get into your home network, right? The idea is they need to be able to pay a staff in perpetuity to maintain devices that they already have out there, and the way to do that is to come into some sort of services-based revenue. You can charge for services on a home security camera. What can you do for a switch that monitors, something very, very minor in your home?
So there has to be services on that, and that kind of drives me to the point of security. So in the advertising industry, we're getting to the point of the same thing, right? We don't have standards for fraud. We're all pushing specific things. We know what low-quality traffic is. We know what bot traffic is. We can tell, the specific offenders. We're trying to take that out. We've got URL spoofing, we've got device ID spoofing, we've got IP address spoofing. There's a lot of things inside of the mechanism that are machine driven that allow us to do this. On the other side of it, you've got IoT, and IoT really has a lack of a security protocol as well. So when you talk about security from both sides of these markets, there's a fraud and a personal information issue on the advertising side, and then there's a security issue on the IoT side, right? So when we're collecting data, which everything collects data anyway, it kind of gets me to the point of where the EU has now just released new privacy laws, right? So that affects everybody. That affects IoT, that affects the internet marketing companies, it affects advertisers, it affects publishers. It really, I look at it as a point where we can either move the internet forward or we're going to shut the internet down, because companies like us, all of us, pretty much everybody here is relying on data and the internet and how that data is moved back and forth, how we privatize that data, how we clean that data, and then how we as an industry stand up and say, hey, look, we have to do the safest thing for ourselves, or the FCC is going to come in. The FCC had no control of the internet for a long time. They do have control of wireless devices. That means they're right in our playground now. 60% of my business is mobile. So when I look at wireless and I look at the FCC, now they're in my business for data collection, they're in your business for data collection, and they're in all of our business for data collection. We don't have appropriate standards. So I think my real question here is there some type of solution that we can look at, and you guys can address this from the advertising side and what we're trying to do with confining and cleaning for personal information, trying to set that aside so we're not on the wrong side. And then I'll try to address it from the IoT side so that we can speak to that side as well. So, Mike, do you want to dive into that one, or you want Alan to go first?
Yeah, okay. I think there's a couple different ways to approach it. And I think you see the different ecosystems themselves approaching it in different ways. Facebook is obviously leaning on the side of we're going to suck up as much data about you as we possibly can. I think there's companies like Google that are also in that model. You've got then companies like Apple that are walking a fine line where they're trying to do things like basically create algorithms that in essence put enough noise in the data that you can't have personally identifiable signals.
Absolutely.
So you can basically create like groups and look-alike groups, but I can't necessarily go in and say, I'm going to target Brian. And then there's certainly the publishers themselves that have the deterministic data to allow you to do that.
Okay, so let's stop there for just a second. So what you're telling me is that we collect all this personal information, all this private data, but there's no way to really get it out of the machine because the machine anonymizes it at such a way where I can't see what you've anonymized, you can't see what the first party anonymized, and once you do that anonymization, you've put enough static and additional data in there to where when the EU standard says, hey, as a person, I can reach out to every company and say, give me my data. Well, that's not a possibility, is what you're saying.
Yeah, for us, and I'll let Mike speak to his side too, but the idea is that there is enough anonymization and randomization in that data that if you came to me today and said, give me all of the ad impressions that you've served to me, I'd probably have a difficulty doing that unless I was able to go to your computer, take the cookie off, go back, trying to match that up. But I don't know it's you per se. I know it's a lookalike.
So I would have to give you my personal data for you to do that.
Right, and if you asked me to say, search your database at SpotX for Brian, I'd say, well, that's not a thing. We don't do that, right? Now, there are people that are going out for a much more deterministic approach, and that's where they actually have your data in a way that is tied to yourself. And in Germany, for example, where we do a lot of business, simple things like an IP address are considered personally identifiable information. In the United States, that's not a thing. So there are very, very different laws from state to state and country to country and how you have to deal with this data. But the goal is, I think, to do this in a way that is both privacy friendly, but also that adds a lot of value. You know, if we have segments on a new mom or a segment on auto intenders or these types of things, they're valuable for the industry, they're valuable for the economy, but we need to do it in a way that takes this exhaust data and doesn't put people, you know, kind of individually at risk. Right?
Mike, so Alan answered, and he talked about the user and protecting the user. But let's talk about the advertiser for a second and talk about protecting the advertiser. So if we protect the user so diligently, we've defeated the advertiser's ability to really decide whether they're a user, whether they're in a specific category they need maybe, and then whether they're fraudulent or not. Let's say I knock out device ID and I knock out IP address. How do you tell me whether I'm a fraudulent bot or a new IoT device or a person? Do you want to go at that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like I think we need a lot of that data, right? There's a lot of there's definitely data that can help us to see patterns that are fraudulent, and I think everyone in the industry is working very hard to do things to find those fraudulent types of patterns out there. You know, from an advertiser perspective, like the advertisers don't necessarily need to know down to the individual user level. They don't need to know personal information, and all they care about is did I serve an ad to someone, and did that ad actually end up in that particular user being able to do something. So completely anonymized information is enough to be able to do almost all of that we want to do. So
that's a great answer. I think that's probably against what a lot of people would think is popular mechanics of it. You need more data to get a better picture. But what you're saying is we have sophisticated enough algorithms to take the trillions of opportunities that happen a day on the planet and really anonymize those, segment those into big chunks, and say everybody looks like this, but I can't tell it's Mike or Alan or Brian.
Right. Yeah. And even like when I'm targeting people, right? Like if I'm targeting people for a particular ads, if people look enough alike, like that's probably good enough for me. I really only care about individual users when I'm trying to attribute it a user who's actually purchased something on my website or whatever it is, and being able to tie them back to an individual ad. So that attribution mechanism it is really the main part that's important from an individual user perspective. But kind of groups of users are good enough to do targeting.
Well, let's talk about targeting. Let's talk about my perspective. I think more is on the fraud perspective of is it an actual user or not, and how do you decide whether they are? And I know there's great companies like White Ops and IAS and Double Verify and Moats coming to market, but nobody really has that figured out on the mobile side, which is really where we're talking about, right? This is all an IoT advertising thing, right? So this is mobile devices we're talking about. Desktop, we're figured out, right? But mobile, there's no real way to really dig into that, is there? Or are you guys seeing that there are ways that are being presented to you guys?
Yeah, I think a lot of the patterns are relatively similar, right? We're looking for patterns in types of usage. So on desktop, we have it figured out, again, relatively well, but that's changing constantly. So, you know, if you start to see spikes in certain attributes from specific IP addresses or on specific websites, you know, certainly that can indicate fraud. So you can start to see some of the same types of things on mobile devices where you start to see spikes from specific apps or whatever it is. So you're really looking for patterns across all the traffic that you see. So
cool. So I'm I'm going to point this back to IoT for a second and ask you guys, as far as data coming in, what type of data don't you get from the ambient environment? And is there something that you could think of or would wish for that would be a wireless type of device that would collect data for you? And if there is, what type of data are you missing that you can integrate? Or is that an opportunity at this point? Or is all the data input, I mean, it's pervasive as it is, but what would be the next killer app for you to insert data into your system?
Yeah, I'll take it. So I think for us, I think what would be really interesting is auto telemetry data, and I think we're going to get to that point where you've got the auto telemetry data. As long as people continue to drive their own cars, which God knows how long that's going to be, so we'll see. But auto telemetry data can tell us things about somebody's personality type, how fast they accelerate, do things like that. I mean, I know that this is kind of far-fetched and far out beyond the existing social connections and things that we already have a lot of. But it tells you a lot about where you go, what you do, and I think that it also gives you insight into major purchase decisions. Auto tends to be just a huge category. So if we could tap into the fact that a car wasn't healthy in a wireless manner, and then go back and target that user, I think there are major swaths of advertisers that would be really, really interested in that data. So that's kind of one area that I can think of, like right off the top of my head, that I guarantee once we get into it, the cars become appified, that data will start coming back out too.
So when I started, that's where I kind of started, was hacking vehicles and doing that whole kind of thing. Spent about 15 years in reverse engineering vehicle communications and data and telemetry. So I got a lot of history in that. Got a company I'll introduce you to. But Mike, I would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I think automotive is really interesting. Kind of from advertising perspective, out of home is another big area that a lot of people are starting to look at. We're sitting up here on a rooftop. I'm looking at an Ice Age billboard over here. Like Ice Age, whoever paid for that has no idea if anyone sees that, right? But if they knew, like from mobile devices or whatever, that there's a group of people up here or there's people driving by that can actually see that kind of information is pretty interesting, right? It's more from an attribution standpoint as opposed to a targeting standpoint. So there's a whole bunch of data. I think, especially like automotive is a great example of like things that I can target on, or the quintessential refrigerator example that everyone uses for IoT. Is interesting, and then there's the attribution side. I think that's also interesting.
So really anything that will collect data and give you additional insight into how people do what they do and where they do it and what time they do it, you want that data.
Yeah, right. So both from that targeting perspective of there's something that you need, your car's broken down or is going to break down, we should target you with an ad so that you can go get it fixed. Or you actually went and got that car fixed, and maybe there was a beacon there, and we needed to know about that or something. Yeah.
Awesome. Kind of want to open it up at this point and see if anybody has any questions for any of us at this point.
Beater.
Check. So one thing that we've seen with IoT, especially wearable devices, is that a lot of users will participate for a specific period of time and then they kind of check out. So how do you kind of anticipate that from an advertising and marketing technology space when using these different types of IoT devices to help with that marketing? How do you anticipate those kind of challenges? Oh, Rachel and microcap marketing, sorry.
So either one of you guys want to jump in that? I'll rephrase that a little bit. Okay, so let's say that you guys have segments that you're not getting data from. You need data from one of these companies, and one of these companies think they have data that assist in attribution, maybe brand awareness or whatever it may be. How do they get that into the system to work with you guys? I know there's companies like LiveRamp and things like that, but how would they work with you guys?
I mean, like from our perspective, we've built out APIs that allow that data to be pushed in very easily. So it's really the mapping of users to a specific device. So I could say, a beacon is attributed to a specific user, or your light bulb, or I guess your Under Armour underwear are actually yours, right?
Right.
And we can actually tie that into a user profile. That's one important piece of it. I'm not sure what else I want to say about that.
I would say that I used to say the mobile phone is the truly personal connected device. Now I think it's the connected underwear. That is the one thing that you're not sharing with anybody.
Right.
And I think the other question might have also led into is if you have IoT, and let me see if I can correct this or if I get this right. So if you have IoT devices, et cetera, but you have users that use them for a while and then kind of stop using them, right? What you want to do is reactivate those users. You are like any other brand that works with somebody like the Trade Desk or SpotX on the data side picture, which is that you need to understand who owns that device and attribute that device back into other devices. So you need to be able to find them on their television, their connected television, their gaming console, their mobile device, their desktop computer, whether it be display, video, etc. That's all part of this thing called a cross-device graph. What you do is you look for devices that travel together in time and place. This is, if anybody wants to know the nuances of cross-device graph tracking, see me after a few beers.
This is cool stuff.
Yeah, but ultimately it's about time and place. Your computer and laptop came home, we're next to that device enough times. Now we can associate you with that device. The usage starts waning on that device. We can start pushing ads to the other devices that we know you're actively watching on to push back activity. People who do this all the time are like gaming companies, King, all these guys who do in-app purchases. If you're a high in-app purchaser, you haven't played for a while, they're going to find you on your desktop computer or your television or the bus stop that you sit at. They're going to find that out. I'm not saying you ride the bus. Not that there's anything wrong with riding the bus. I'm digging myself a hole.
RTB is a great service here.
Yeah, right. All right. So that's the idea behind that. So that's the whole idea behind the data layer is both the attribution and the identification of the user, even if it's not one-to-one.
Cool. I kind of want to dive into. Do we have another question?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
We have one more. Hi, my name's Dale. I'm with Forge of Honor. I've been involved in ad buys with several companies, and this is a question more to your services. The bad way to get, I guess you call an attribute, is to offer discounts and coupons based on the medium. But of course, as a manufacturer, if a customer's going to buy your product at full price, you don't want to be giving them a discount anyway. And I was wondering if like these new technologies are going to give a way to like avoid that unnecessary discounting that's sort of the bane of all manufacturers.
Well, I think I'm lucky, and then I'll turn this one over to Mike. I'm lucky because we work in all video, right? And video is primarily branding. It's not about discounts. Every now and then you see the discounts on the trucks for the July 4th or whatever else. But it's about branding. And the problem with branding so far has been it's hard to do attribution versus something like last click attribution. Buy this now, it's on sale, click here, and then go purchase on an e-commerce site, right? That's last click attribution, and it's broken. It doesn't give a lot of credit to many of the value creators from the billboard all the way down through the TV commercials that you see. It's just broken. So what's really interesting is we're working with a big retailer, and looking at their data sets so that they can run ads on connected TV against their shopping cart data on a connected TV. So that they can look at that and they say, okay, well, I ran this branded ad for a pair of diapers to what we think are new moms based on shopping cart data. They typically buy Pampers. We're gonna sell them on the value proposition of Huggies, not the price, the value proposition. And then we're gonna measure within the next 2 weeks whether there was an uplift of this segment and group of people to actually have that pop and see if there was a difference. That's not about advertising a discount. It's not about the medium. It's about using the data chain to understand the point of purchase all the way to the advertisement and then back to the point of purchase to try and close that loop. And it's not about discounting. It's about brand awareness. It's about the messaging of value. Right.
And I think that's a great point for video, where it's about brand awareness. But when we talk about display and multiple other kinds of advertising, it does need to be about conversion. And I think it's not what Alan hit on is that it's using the data set to get the right conversion you're looking for to deliver the right ad at the right time. And Mike's going to say the same thing, right? You got to use the right data so that you can purchase the right advertisement or the right advertisement spot and deliver the right ad into that spot. So again, we're going to fall back to say, at least I am, that data is pertinent here. The more data you collect, I think, which is why I'm a little bit opposite of Mike. I think the more data you collect, the better picture you get, and then you know what you're serving and what you're not serving.
Same thing. No.
I knew it.
Like I think it is a concern though, right? And but if you have the right data to know people who are already your existing customers or have already purchased something, you don't want it. You want to exclude them. You want to not show them those ads that are going to give them a discount, because if all I'm doing is giving attribution to users who are already buying my product, there's not a whole lot of value there. There's maybe a little bit, but the real value is users who are converting from Pampers to Huggies or whatever way it was, right? So I want to convert users, and like I think we have a lot of the data that enables that to happen, and data is the key to a lot of that, I think. So, but it is a worry in the industry and something that is continuing to be worked on. So.
I just saw a demo of the Trade Desk. I'm going to push them because Mike's not going to. I saw a pretty cool piece of their user interface. So we talk a lot about targeting our industry, but the other side of that is targeting customers out, and that allows, Mike and the Trade Desk, their platform allows you to target who you want, but also target who you don't want, which is a large part of putting the data and the right ad together to target the right person, but target away as well. And that's a phenomenal piece of their system that, we're a customer because of components like that.
So, my question is related to what you were talking about the problem of, if you create the ability to track someone within an app, but then it drains a lot of the battery. You're talking about that being valuable, the data being valuable for attribution and everything. But do you really need that to be persistent? It seems like if you had that in-app and you had the ability to turn it off and on as needed, the tracking remotely, you really only need to have a percentage of the audience just getting a sample of data to see whether it's effective, right?
Yeah. Whoa. So yeah, you don't need 100% of the data. We just need a consistent number of users, right? So we can sample that. That's fine. And that, I think that's true across a lot of attribution, right? We never know 100% of sales. We know in online sales types of things, we know some percentage of those sales. But as long as we can show some directional things that allow an advertiser to be able to optimize their campaign to be able to get more people to do that, that's really what we are trying to do. I think most advertising platforms aren't trying to be kind of the financial clearinghouse for all sales that happen. But again, like, it's important for us to show how can you make your campaigns be better, and how can you make those hit more users like the ones that are actually converting. So.
But
Being cut off.
Okay. It's kind of a technical question. I can take it offline. But I was just curious why you would have to have that tracking on persistently all the time.
I think I agree with you that you don't.
In order to get the data that you need.
And I think that's what Mike said as well, is you really don't. And I think that one of the things we look at with IoT companies is that inside of the apps, you have to have power management and data management as well. And that was kind of my point, is it's not just about power, and it's not just about the data either. It's about the user experience and what we're doing there, because there's a cost for the power and for the data. So as we try to manage that, I'm a firm believer that triggers are what we should look for to activate things like this. But when you talk about the triggers, the beacon is the trigger. So now you have to go into the data and say, maybe we day part this person because we know their travel habits, and they travel this portion of the highway at this point. We're not going to track them here. We'll turn it on when they get to work, look at what they did right here, and then we'll turn it back off. And you're absolutely correct. I think most apps that look at beacons are going to have to deal with the power management more so than anything else. And that's really what Mike said one of their primary issues is power management for a reason. If the app is not on, it doesn't communicate with the beacon. So if you go into Walmart and you don't have your Walmart app on, they don't know where you are. But if you do turn it on before you go in, then it's okay. And typically Walmart's going to send you a message based on GPS, not your app, that says, hey, you're at Walmart, turn our app on. You just got a push message, right? Now you turn your app on, and now Walmart can do their thing because you want to walk in. Like companies, like a local company, Ibotta, they're phenomenal at attribution. There you go, guys. Phenomenal at attribution. They're the only guys, and I'm going to say this out loud, they're the only guys that I think have really figured out local attribution, and they do it with national brands. So I bought an app. I got my grocery list. I go in the store. Based on beacon information, it knows I'm in the store. It can tell where I'm at. I've got a shopping list. It makes me convert with videos, which I really like, guys. So you watch a video. Once you watch the video, which is branding, what we're talking about, then there's an attribution component where you got a discount, which is what you're looking for. Like, how do you give the discount and know you're giving the right person a discount? Because they asked for that discount, right? And then you take that attribution data, because they're going to go purchase this at the cash register, and now they got a receipt, and they tell you, hey, all of this was bought based on the fact that I watched this ad and I chose this product, and that's how attribution should work. So, guys, I would love to hear from you guys about power management.
You want this one?
We're going to get a mic to you, don't worry.
Here.
One.
We're more on the data science side, but for power management, we're just using the iOS or Android packages for location services. So it's it can come on if you have location services on. It runs in the background for a few minutes and it shuts off again.
So they've figured it out then.
Yeah, I think we're just mainly using iOS and service packages.
Yeah, but I'm saying iOS has figured out the power management, and there shouldn't really be that much of an issue at this point. Is that what you guys are saying? You're shaking your head no.
No,
they
no
have
issues.
not. Oh, no issues. Okay.
Yeah, I think the issue that we ran into was when I have a generic app that, like, the trade desk needs a generic thing that's looking across every beacon that could possibly be out there. Like, I have to have that on all the time, so I know that you just walked into Walmart or you just walked into Lamar Donuts or whatever it is.
Well, your location has to be on, and if you're near that person with that app, it should pop up, right?
And as soon as you turn that on and you're listening all the time, you have some power problems. So that kind of is what starts to limit some of those capabilities.
Cool. Well,
and real quick before we get off that topic, I know we've talked about it for a second. The people that are going to do the best job at this, and you guys should pay very close attention to the terms and conditions of whoever you are getting network service from, are going to be the people that provide the data connection to your phone. Because they're pinging your location and taking that data all the time. They're essentially creating a mass sample of your location. Google does it, Apple does it, although they're not as aggressive with it. Verizon is very aggressive with it in terms of the way that they go after it. But they are building profiles of where you live, where you work, where you shop, all day long without having to run an app in the background. They're using it based on where you are across the positioning of their network. So they also see all of the traffic that you do, so they see all of the internet, all the connected devices that you have and every website you go to. So in terms of building profiles on you, just pay attention to some of these new FCC rules about data and what your carriers are doing, because it's very interesting in the way that they're using this data.
awesome. Do we have any more questions? If not, I'm going to close this up, and you can get to... There we go, one more. All right, awesome.
I just wanted to see if the microphone was working. So an interesting application, too, is passive collection, of what you're talking about. So the iOS is tracking where you are. So there's another company called OnSpot Data that... has anybody heard of OnSpot Data? But they're working with ad servers, so collecting ad server calls and Wi-Fi calls, and also, I think, a couple cell phone companies, but passively understanding where you are. So an interesting application related to this conversation is the billboard, for instance. So OnSpot is working with Tab to create more attribution for digital out-of-home. So lots and lots of applications working with other big brands like Walmart and stuff like that, putting locations and figuring out where you've been based on your mobile phone. And they can build audiences retroactively based on mobile phone data. So I've been using them a lot for a lot of different things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So introduce yourself and tell us where you work, what you do.
My name is Laura, and I work for a company called Bullseye Media. We're bringing addressable advertising to digital out-of-home. OnSpot is our major data partner.
Very, very cool. And I think what you're getting to is it's not about, we used to talk about, and I've called this location fallacy for years. It's not about where you're standing right now. To your point, you're not going to give somebody a discount at Starbucks if they're already standing at Starbucks. It's ridiculous. It's what Foursquare used to do. It was insane. I don't understand why why businesses did it. I'm already at your business, checking in, showing my friends how cool it is I'm at your business. Oh, there's $10 off. Well, I was going to spend that $10, right? So the idea is not about where you are now. It's about where you've been and where predictively you're going, right? So if I can take your data and say, I know that this person lives in this congressional district, even if they're not in their congressional district, then we know which ad to serve them for which political candidate. If I know that they live downtown and they have a propensity for liking Mexican food and they're going to be downtown tomorrow, I'm going to give them a lunch special at a Mexican food restaurant tomorrow, not right now when they're on their way to a meeting or doing something. It's kind of how the industry towed into it, and I think to your point, you can use it for digital out of home, you can use it for retail attribution, you can use it for creating segments like auto intenders to see people who skipped across dealerships. There's a million ways to use it, but it's about the data and analytics, probably what Ibotta is doing a lot of in terms of the data science underneath that to turn past data into future predictions at some rate that has some accuracy to it.
Yeah, I've been really excited about building audience segments. I do other things besides just working. I also like plan campaigns for brands and advertisers as well, but building audience segments based on location, so using the on-spot data and building campaigns based on where people have been is pretty awesome. And much better than like the cookie-based stuff or just some new stuff that I've been testing. And then layering it on with like IP targeting rather than just cookie-based targeting.
Now all you need to do is take that data that you have on somebody's mobile phone and attribute it to their television. And the next thing you know, that's where it gets back to what I was talking about before. Everybody on Super Bowl Sunday sees a different advertisement in the middle of the Super Bowl. And that's as a society where we're going, because it takes all of your data, from your internet connected data to your mobile location data to your auto telemetry data to whatever, your connected underwear data, and it sends that all up and it creates a profile on you.
Go Under Armour.
Go Under Armour.
So
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about that because Bullseye has a lot of inventory, TV inventory, set-top box inventory too.
Love to talk to you. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're going to wrap this up. We will be out in the audience if you guys want to continue some conversations. We really appreciate everybody showing up. Can we hear the advocate crowd once more?
Thanks, everybody.
And how about Tech Ride, all you cool IoT companies? Woo! Awesome. Well, this has been a pleasure for us. Mike, thank you. Alan, thank you. Let's go have a beer.